Welcome to the Subhub Pod. I'm MK Sullivan.
And I'm Danny Moreno. And today we are doing our men's OCC preview. We hope you are really excited since it is race week this week. If you haven't already, be sure to go and listen to MK's and Tony's preview of the women's race. I obviously was not in it because I am racing and I don't really want to preview my own race. But they did an absolutely incredible job. So go and listen. That is also listed on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, etc. So yeah, we are very excited. We originally were going to have both of these previews together, but there's just way too much to talk about. We had to separate these out.
Yeah, and this one is definitely a little longer because there are three of us that have opinions. You know, when
Yeah.
Tony and I were just doing it, it was just the two of us going back and forth. But when you add in an additional person, it's like, oh my God, we're gonna be here all day. But it was great. This is
Yeah.
gonna be so much fun for you guys, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's really cool because last year we had our great sub-in hosts, Max Keen and Kimber Maddox. They previewed both of the races at the same time, and they did an absolutely incredible job. This year, since MK is taking on CCC, we thought it would be fun. I know it's coming up. It's this week. Crazy. Well, not when we're recording, but when people are listening to this.
It feels like that
It
though.
feels like that. So we thought it'd be fun if she could have a female host to preview the women's race. No other than the champ and GOAT at OCC, Tony McCann, freaking ran historic. And then, so on our men's side, we decided to pick up no other than Hayden Hawks, who was gracious with his time, is over in Chamonix training for CCC. And I have to say, I feel like Hayden is as big of a fan of just running as we are.
Yeah, I mean, he like definitely did his research on this. Like he was ready to talk about all these guys, and obviously he's run this race before. Prior to Jeshurun, he was and yourself, he was the highest finishing American at OCC, and so I think he was super stoked to get to talk about this with us.
Yeah, and Hayden just comes in with a plethora of insights. I mean, the dude has been in the sport a really long time, and not only that, he's one of the highest performers in our sport. And just a couple of, just a couple of his highlights. We couldn't list all of them, or else we would be here all day. Recently third at Western States in the third fastest time ever, sprinting on the track to still try and catch second
So
place. I
gross.
mean, we will not forget that sprint for a long time. I think he closed like 10 minutes on Rod too. So yeah, historic. He recently won the 51K at the Cat 100, kind of as a tune-up for CCC. I did recognize the guys that he was racing against, and they are stellar talents. So it looks like things are all trending well towards CCC. Before that, Black Canyon 100K winner earlier this year and in a new course record. He was second at Western States in 2022, like MK mentioned, fifth at OCC. And in 2017, he did win CCC. So he is when they're coming up with the cool stats for all the men lineup for CCC, they can say that there are previous champions in the race.
A couple of them at this point.
Yeah, a couple of them. Yeah, this
Yeah.
this race is going to be insane. Um, but yeah, we really appreciated his insights. Please drop a comment on YouTube or our Instagram post. Give Hayden some love because yeah, like MK said, he really showed up ready to chat about OCC.
Yes. And before we get into our OCC preview, we will also be announcing the winners of our Poseidon Bike giveaway. So stay tuned. So before we get into the episode with Hayden, we want to announce our winners of the Poseidon Bike giveaway that we did over the last month. Just as a fun little extra side note for you guys, if any of you are going to be at Mammoth Trail Fest next month, Poseidon will also be doing a huge giveaway there as well. So hopefully you already follow them after this giveaway, but if you haven't, make sure to follow them for details on that giveaway as well.
Yeah, and we have had so much fun partnering with Poseidon. I think there might be, a secret message giveaway later this year too. So if you're a new follower of the SubHub Pod on Instagram, continuing following, not for just updates on our new episodes and more Sub Ultra content, but for updates on potentially another giveaway to receive a new bike. And with Poseidon Bicycles, a big reason why we partnered with them, not only are they based in Southern California, which that's where I grew up, but they do operate as a consumer direct business. And this means that they bypass any extra distribution channels and they manufacture the bikes in their own factory. This ensures not only top quality, but this is the reason why you can get a new gravel bike for $750. Yes, I said that correct. $750, which is just insane considering the market these days. Personally, I have the Drop Bar Redwood. It's a kind of beefier gravel bike. Their light wood or their lighter one is called the Ambition. I have the Drop Bar Redwood, or it's the Redwood with a drop bar. Kind of just workhorse, great for gravel roads, even a little bit of technical terrain. And I also just love it. It's super cute. So if you want to use our code, which you should, because now you want a new bike, use our code SUBHUB when you visit PoseidonBike.com, and this gets you $150 off of your purchase or any purchase. So $750 gravel bike minus $150, you're looking at a $600 new gravel bike. So again, that's SubHub at PoseidonBike.com.
Yes. And so now we have two winners for this giveaway, two bikes. And these people will get to go pick whatever bike they want on the website, which is really cool. And we will DM you guys to tell you how to go through this. We don't need to talk about it on the pod, but our first winner is Inese. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly, Inese. The Instagram handle is AIGS05. And our second winner is Cody Bear at Cody Bear _ on Instagram. So congratulations to you guys. I hope you like your bikes. Danny and I love ours. Yeah.
Yeah. So now for the men's preview for OCC, if you haven't listened already, listen to the incredible episode with MK and our special guest co-host, winner Dominic Queen, Tony McCann of last year's OCC edition. And now you get to listen to this episode with the American King, Hayden Hawks, who will be running CCC this year. So hope you guys enjoy the episode. Welcome, Hayden. We're so excited to have you for today's OCC men's preview.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Just out here in Chamonix, well, up here in Montroc, training, getting ready for CCC, and excited to discuss OCC with you guys today.
Yeah, how is the training going so far?
Oh, yeah, it's been excellent. Yeah, I felt like I recovered really well from Western States, and we came out here about 2 weeks after States, just to kind of get specific and also bring the family out, have a good time in Europe, get a little different experience like we like to do during the summers. And yeah, it's been good. I raced 50K in Austria a couple weeks ago, was able to get the win there, felt really strong, and training's been great out here. I mean, it's paradise for training. I mean, you ladies know how it is. So
Yeah. How are the kids liking it? Are they enjoying France?
yeah, they love it. Yeah, my son actually, so he just turned 7. His birthday was out here, and he's been doing some climbing classes and just really loving being in the mountains. And I feel like out here we spend so much more quality time together as a family, and we spend so much time outdoors. And we just really love the experiences that we have out here. And so plan is to continue to do it for years to come.
That is so, so cool. I love that. And especially happy birthday to your son. 7 years, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy for me, that's for sure. So I feel like an old man. I'm really not that old. I'm only 33, but I have a 7-year-old, and but it's kind of fun now because like I feel like the baby stage is kind of over. So now like he can do a lot more. And so I'm taking him out. We're having a good time. We've been having a lot of cool experiences together, and like he can go a little bit longer in some of the hikes and stuff. And so we've been really exploring the area, and yeah, hopefully the kids will get something from this, and it's something that they'll remember, the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So you have run OCC before back in 2021. And I think prior to Jesha run, you were probably the highest finishing American, if I'm
American
remembering this
man.
correctly,
I
or
think
American
we've
man.
tied. I think we've
Yes.
tied. I think
Yes.
we've both been
Yes.
fifth. So
Yep. And then Danny took it from everybody there by being third. But
And then Katie.
oh yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
forget
yeah.
about Katie. I forget that Katie is American sometimes, even though
Yeah.
she's very much American. So yeah, can you tell us a little bit, I guess, about what makes OCC special as a race?
Yeah, I mean, kudos to the ladies. They have shown up at OCC. The men, we have yet to get a podium at OCC. We've podiumed at CCC and UTMB, but not OCC on the American side. So we're really rooting for some of the American guys this year to hopefully pull out a podium, and also rooting for the ladies to continue their success and get some more podium spots this year as well. I think OCC is an amazing race because, like, I would say, like, it's like the best part of the course, of the CCC UTMB course. It's a little different, of course, but it's the best section or the best area of those courses, in my opinion. And it's also the hardest part of the CCC UTMB course. Like, if you look at like the CCC or the UTMB, the last 50K of those races is the hardest parts of those races. And the OCC runs a lot on, similar trails. So they do a little bit different, actually a little bit harder, I would say. But I just think it's so cool because, like, you can go out there, you can run super fast, you can like run the entire thing. And to be able to win or podium at a race like OCC, you have to pretty much run the entire thing. And you can just go out and just redline it, really push yourself, see what you're capable of over a 50K distance. And I think, like, everybody kind of talks a lot about the CCC, the UTMB, blah, blah, blah. But I honestly think the OCC most years is the most competitive race of the weekend. It is the race that I'm probably most excited to watch because it's an actual race. Like, it's so close all the time. You get a lot of lead changes, you get a lot of things going on, and it's a really exciting event to watch. It's a really challenging course, but it's super, super exciting. Not putting down CCC or UTMB. I mean, I'm running CCC this year, and of course, I want it to have some credit as well. But at the same time, I really enjoyed running the OCC, and it's maybe my favorite race of the weekend.
I love that. Hearing you talk about OCC, I mean, me and MK both love OCC, but it reminds me of how we talk about track as well. There's the various events, and there's some events that you're just really excited about for particular reasons. And I mean, I feel the same about OCC, having raced it a couple of times. Is like it feels so engaging the entire time. Like if you disengage, you're falling back like 10 places. So that's really cool about it. What do you think about it being like the pinnacle championship for the 50K distance, considering, with CCC, you have golden ticket races, and with UTMB, you have Western States. So there's kind of chances for runners to match up prior to, whereas OCC, you don't really have those 50K occasions where, 10 plus deep runners are lining up prior to August.
Yeah, I think it's a really good course to see kind of like everybody's strengths, because to win a race like OCC, you have to be so well-rounded, because the race has a lot of very runnable sections, some very runnable downhills, especially like coming off of Col de Balme and stuff like that. But you also have some pretty technical sections. Actually, right before Col de Balme is probably one of the most technical sections. And so, like, I think you have to not only be a really good runner, but you also have to be really good technically. So I do think, like, it really showcases a lot of talent and ability. And usually the person that's going to win or podium at a race like OCC is going to be kind of the most well-rounded runner. So I do think, like, the course itself is a really good championship style course. And I think it's awesome that they put it on the week of like UTMB and CCC. And they've since, made it just as important as CCC and UTMB. Like they've upped the prize money, as they've upped the UTMB prize money and the CCC prize money, they've also upped the OCC prize money, which is a good thing, which shows that it is like a championship style race. It is a final. And I think that's really important because I think like in this sport, like I run all distances. I've done mountain running champs, which is 10K, and I've also done Western States, which was a 100 mile. But if I had to be honest with you, my favorite distance and the distance that I think is maybe the hardest to prepare for, because you have to be like, you have to have so much endurance, but you also have to have so much speed at the same time, is the 50K distance. It's kind of where the long distance guys come down, the short distance guys or ladies come up, and they meet there at that 50K distance. And that's what is so cool about the 50K. Like it is my favorite distance. And I think that like OCC is a great place for people to showcase that, their abilities and see what they're capable of doing on that day.
Yeah, you've definitely made a career out of being like a very versatile athlete. I love watching you race the 50K because I feel like a lot of 100 milers don't often come down in distance as much as we feel like they should because we love to see that competition. And so it makes sense that you would love this race and also do very well at it because you're very fast. You're also very good at mountain running. So I love that. We're
No, I
big, we're
try to
big
be. I
50K
try to be.
fans.
Yeah, sometimes coming out here and running on these little bit more technical trails than maybe we have back home is a little hard for me, but I've been lucky enough to have some success in the 50K distance as well out here. And that's the cool thing about the 50K is like you just don't hold back. Like I feel like in 100K and a 100 mile, you kind of have to be a little bit strategic, a little bit more strategic. You have to be a little careful and like you can't take as many risks because it could come up to blow up on you in the end. And of course it can do that in a 50K as well if you're being completely crazy, but I feel like I can kind of push on that gas a bit more at the 50K distance and really have some fun, descend super fast, like run some sub 6 minute miles and just have some fun and really like use some of that speed that I still work on and that I love.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, hearing about the balance as someone who is preparing for OCC, once again, that's always the struggle is finding that balance of I need to be really strong, but I can't lose the speed for that reason. Because when the race goes, like you can't really lose contact. It's really hard to make up time, even though it's close to 6 hours of racing in our world. And with the type of train it is, it's really hard to make up time. Um, so as someone who is been in Chamonix for the last 5-6 weeks, preparing for CCC, which folks, if you didn't know already, Hayden is a prior CCC champion. So he knows these trails really well. He's had a chance to run the OCC course recently. And so we're curious if you could kind of take us step by step through the course that the athletes are going to run this year.
Yeah, so when I competed at OCC in 2021, the course was a little bit different. There are some similarities still, especially at the beginning of the race. But yeah, they've changed the course pretty much every year a little bit, here and there, which hopefully at some point they can actually, get a course down and that be the standard. And I think they're getting to that point, but of course also like weather and different things like that play a role. But I do think like the cool thing about the OCC is so you start in Auxerre, which is in Switzerland, a cool little town down in this valley, just off of Martigny. And like the vibe's really cool there. It's a really beautiful area. And the first climb is actually pretty runnable, if I remember right. Like you kind of run on some dirt roads, and then you run on this like really pretty smooth, not too steep, but steep enough single track where maybe you have to put in a little bit of power hiking, but probably not much. And then that takes you up to Champay-Lac. Now Champay-Lac is a pretty important, I guess, point of every one of the races over the weekend. It is the halfway point for CCC. It's also like right, it's the final 50. It's the start of the final 50K for UTMB. And so you go into Champé Lock, you kind of run around the lake there. It's pretty runnable again. You're actually on like pavement and like some sidewalk area through there. And so like having some leg speed, as you can already tell, is really important because not only do you have the really runnable part at the start, but you have this pretty good section between Champé Lock and what they call the bovine climb, which is a very runnable section. It's paved road, dirt road, and you have to have some good leg speed. And you'll see a lot of like the really speedsters will start opening up there. And if you want to like stay in contact, you have to, pick up the pace there. Um, and then you start like the real climbing after that. The next section is you go up and over what they call bovine. It's a pretty rocky climb. It's pretty steep. And that's the thing about this race is the climbs kind of get steeper as you go. So initially you kind of have this like more gradual climb, and then the bovine climb is a little bit steeper. Still pretty runnable, but pretty steep and rocky. You top off there, and then you have this fairly technical, not super technical, but I'd kind of say in the middle, descent down to Triant. And then once you hit Triant, which is where the famous pink church is that you might see on the live stream, really cool spot. You usually have a bunch of people lined up there in the Col du Forclaz area, cheering on the runners. You start climbing out of Triant. Now, this is your biggest climb of the day. This is the steep one. And this is where I'd say a lot of big moves are made. And you kind of have to like go with the move in this section, or you might not have enough time at the end to be able to catch back up. But you do a really steep climb up out of there. It's a pretty runnable climb at first, and then you kind of top off on this kind of like balcony trail. But this balcony trail it's not it's pretty technical. It's probably the most technical part of the course. It's rolling and really rocky, some roots, different things like that. And you might see a lot of like the like technically savvy athletes try and make moves around here. That takes you up to Col de Balme. And then from Col de Balme, you drop down into La Tour and then into Argentière. And now this descent is very runnable. It's a single track trail for most of it, but it's like a pretty smooth, buttery single track trail that takes you all the way down. And so you definitely have to have some good leg speed. And then you start making your final climb from there, from Argentière up to La Flégère, which is the last aid station of all the races. And then from there, you do like, and that climb is not as steep. It's kind of more similar, I would say, to the first climb, where it's a little bit gradual. It kind of levels off a little bit in the middle. You get up to La Flégère, and then you have a pretty direct, pretty steep descent down into Chamonix, and that one is pretty technical. It's rooty, rocky, and that's kind of your final descent down into Chamonix where you finish the race.
Yeah, Flagere is like one of the least steep climbs, but it's always so exposed and hot by the time that you get there that I feel like it just feels so hard.
Yeah. But it's a beautiful climb because like if you
Yeah.
look to your left on that climb, you can see the Mont Blanc, if it's on a clear day. I actually just ran that section today. And yeah, it's pretty rocky, but it's not too steep. It's pretty gradual uphill, and it's a nice climb to finish off the day.
Definitely. Thanks for the rundown. That was perfect.
Yeah, that was
Hopefully
perfect.
that was sorry, that was a bit long-winded, but
No, that's
Everything you
perfect.
said, I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. Danny is so stoked because last year they did not the balcony trail they took out because of a rock fall, and this year they're bringing it back. And Danny always talks about that being the most beautiful part of the course.
Yeah, I love
yeah, it's
that trail.
extremely beautiful. But yeah, I think like in the past, I think I was talking to Allie McLaughlin about it, and she was saying like it's a pretty rough part of the race. Like it can be rough, especially if like you don't have legs, or if you've really pushed that climb up to that balcony trail a little too hard. It's pretty technical, and you definitely want to have legs through that section. just to be able to be technically savvy through that area. And I've never done it in the race, but I have done it in training, and I can see that, definitely being the case.
Yeah. And it's really nice because, like you said, they've changed the course. I think they've run 4 different courses over the last 4 years. Yeah. So it's been a different course each time. And so it's really nice that they're actually finally repeating a course from not last year, but 2022. So we can actually get some sort of maybe course record going that is actually a good mark. But yeah, that is a beautiful part of the
Yeah, and
trail.
cross our fingers that it sticks. I
Yeah.
hopefully with them coming back to it means like that is the course that they want to have.
Yeah.
And so hopefully that does stick, because I just really like that's why I love races like Western States, for instance, where the course has been the
Yeah.
same for so many years, because you can really like see like how the sport's progressed over the years, when the course is the same. There are the course records, that are involved, and also like for you individually, it like helps you to be able to know like how to prepare for the race, and also like by studying people's past races on that same course. And it also like helps you kind of like see where you stand, in the history of the sport. I'm a big history guy, and so I love it when the courses are the same, and so hopefully it sticks.
Yeah, let's talk course record for
Amen.
a second. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I just said amen.
Oh yeah. Let's talk course record for a second, because obviously the people that won this race last year, amazing athletes. But I remember watching them finish and being like, holy shit, like they're running 40 minutes faster than the year before. Are they really that much better than last year's winners? And then going back and like, recognizing that the course was actually quite drastically different. Danny, you want to talk about like you ran it, the times, and like the difference in the course records, or the winning times from last year?
Yeah, so last year when I found out that they had changed the course, which was the week of, again, UTMB, please give more of a heads up to athletes when course changes. But I ran the new course, and compared to my race time, I had already run close to 40 minutes faster just in a training run. So I knew the times were going to go down just based off of that section. And as MK said, we saw that. Oh, maybe it wasn't 40 minutes. It was like 25 minutes. And I just like doubled it in my head. Um, in 2022, which is the course that is this year, Manuel Marias, who is actually running CCC this year, he ran 5:18:29. And last year, the winner, as of right now, still Stian Ingerman, he ran 4:42:40. And for perspective, Francesco Pupi was second in 4:44:58. So that is quite significant. That's almost, yeah, like you said, almost 40 minutes difference.
Yeah, and Manuel is no like he's not a scrum. Like he's an extremely good runner. Especially sky running. Like he's a sky running world champ. One of the best like technically savvy runners in the world right now. And so yeah, like I think that shows that the course change really did make a difference last year with the times. I mean, that being said, like Stian and Francesco are two of the best in the world, especially at this distance. But I do think like, yeah, 40-minute gaps, a pretty big gap that
Quite
shows that,
dramatic.
yeah, quite dramatic. So
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't see Manuel getting beat by 40 minutes in any other head-to-head race against those two.
Yeah, definitely. And before we dive into the runners themselves, since we are getting really excited about this, just something to note about OCC that does make it quite unique is there is no crewing at all. So, most 50Ks, you normally will get at least one crew or aid station spot where you can drop bottles, pick up things. But no, you are taking everything from the start. You're self-sufficient. Still unsure like why that's the decision. It'd be nice to have like one crew spot considering how long it is. Not so much for the athletes in the front of the race, but as the rest of the race goes through and it gets really warm. So yeah, you just have to carry a lot of stuff with you on this long journey through the Swiss Alps.
Yeah, even
yeah,
as somebody in the
including
front,
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, even as somebody in the front, I'd like to have a halfway crew station. The amount of bottles that I had in belts and vests and stuff last year, I was like, I feel like I'm going on a trek. Like, what is this?
What were you gonna say,
Oh,
Hayden?
for sure. Well, I said including all the mandatory kit you have to carry as well, because OCC does require mandatory kit. But yeah, like even at like my 50K 2 weeks ago in Austria, like there was no crude aid stations, so I had to carry all my nutrition on me, all the mandatory kit, everything, and it's just like, yeah, it's quite a bit, it's quite a bit of weight that you ended up carrying, and but I do think like there is something to that where like you have to make sure that you're prepared and that your nutrition is dialed. And I think there's a lot of opportunities for like issues are coming up, like maybe people underfueling because they're not willing to carry the weight, necessary to get their fueling in for that long of a race. Because, it's still a 5 hour race. So you have to have 5 hours worth of fuel if you're not going to be using the aid stations. Of course, you can use the aid stations and not carry weight if you want to, but like most people have their own nutrition strategies that they want to stick to. And so like, yeah, I do think like it makes it a bit challenging, but it also kind of makes it exciting because the people that actually prepare properly and have a plan and are willing maybe to carry that little extra weight of nutrition that they need for the race are usually the people that end up doing the best. And we see that towards the end of the race most of the time. And like, so somebody might skimp on a gel or something like that. And then all of a sudden it comes back to bite them at the end. So I think that's why we see a lot of lead changes towards the end of these races as well.
Yeah, I will say 2 years ago when I was at the start line, when you're like super packed and when you're running, it's just like good chunk, good chunk. And I just remember looking at my stuff and I was like, I have way too much stuff with me. Like everyone just looked so like, I don't know, streamlined. And I'm like, how are they going to get through this? I'm eating too much. And like I eat even more now. And that's been a problem I've been trying to solve in training is like, how do I carry almost twice as many carbs as I did 2 years ago. So that's been fun. But yeah, you're 100% right. Like commit to the fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah, a tip I can give you: belt and pack strategy.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you
That's
wear
what
a
I did
belt
last year.
and a pack. And so you can carry a lot of your nutrition in the belt. That way you don't have as much weight in your pack. And yeah, that's what I've seen that helps the most with distributing the weight properly.
Yeah. I literally had 6 bottles last year. Half of them weren't full, like they just had powder in them. But I was like, I'm not gonna pick up stuff from aid stations. Like, I'm gonna carry everything I need. And yeah, same thing. I show up to the start line. I'm like, is anyone else in this race eating? Like, where are you guys putting all your food? I need to know.
But it makes you want to eat because the more
Yes.
you eat, the lighter you get, right? So
Yes.
like, especially as the climbs get harder, you're like, oh, well, hopefully by the time I get to the third climb, I'm a lot lighter than I was in the first climb.
Yes. Oh man. All right. Well, let's talk about some of the athletes, but before we do that, let's take a quick break to talk about one of our partners.
Hey all, Danny here, professional trail runner and co-host of the Sub Hub podcast. Last year, after getting sick before a big race, I started looking into natural ways to boost my immune system. So I embarked on a little research journey, trying out a few different options. And you know what? I found myself reaching for one set of products again and again, and that was Beekeepers Naturals. And guess what? They are now a partner of the pod. Founded with a mission to reinvent the medicine cabinet, Beekeepers Naturals offers an array of immune-boosting products free from harmful chemicals and artificial ingredients. Their hero ingredient is called propolis. It's nature's defender of the hive, packed with antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals. While my personal favorite product is the throat spray, they also have lozenges, syrups, and a bunch of great options for kids. So if you're looking for a natural option to boost your immune system, consider trying Beekeepers Naturals products. And be sure to use the code SUBHUB20 for 20% off of all of your orders at beekeepersnaturals.com. Now,
All right, let's chat athletes in this race because I'm sure for you guys as well as myself, when I was going through the list on UTMB's site, I was like, there are 30 guys on this list that I could talk about.
yeah, this race is delivering. It is so stacked. And what I'm really excited about this year is there's a lot of debutantes that I consider very strong favorites as well. Whereas normally you're looking at the people who have run the race before. And we do have some veterans and some returners from the last couple of years who are podium finishers. But this debutante class is just top notch. So for the folks listening, we're going to run down kind of the top 10-ish favorites that we've identified, and then we'll get into some fun categories previewing this race. Hayden, how about you start with Sammy, since he is someone that you're very excited about?
Yeah. When you guys sent me over the list, originally we didn't have Sammy Chellingat on the list. And I was like researching and looking up, the start list. And I was like, wow, because he's pretty far down the list because he doesn't really have like a high UTMB index because he hasn't raced a lot. But as we seen last year or last weekend at Sierra Zanel, the women's champion at Sierra Zanel, that was her first race, I think I heard. And she like crushed. I mean, she won by like a huge margin. And I'm pretty sure she's part of the same group as Sammy. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're both Milimani trail runners from Kenya.
Yeah. So yeah, they're both Kenyan, and just that group is crushing right now. So Sammy Chellingat, from what I have looked up, he ran the trail as case or as case race. I don't know exactly how to say it. It's French, but it's a UTMB race in the spring. He ran the 50K there, which got him his qualification for OCC, and he crushed that race. Him and one of his teammates, who ended up finishing third that day, both went out pretty hot. I think Sammy held on and ended up beating Benedict Hoffman, who is a really fast runner from Germany who's been crushing the trail scene recently. He beat Benedict by 10 minutes. I think Anthony Felber, who was actually on our list as well, was in that race as well. And I think Anthony Felber was 12 minutes behind Sammy Chellingat. And as we can see with all the other like Golden Trail Series races, Sierra Zanel last week, the Kenyans are taking the trail running I guess, seen by storm. They are crushing. They are showing up and they are ready to run. And they're winning on flat runnable races, but also like really technical races as well.
Yeah.
And so I do think like OCC is pretty runnable for the most part, I would say. So I think someone like Sammy, who I know the trail as K's race, the UTMB race is a very runnable race. So I'm pretty sure Sammy's got a lot of running ability, but I still think he can show up and do really well at something like OCC. So I'm definitely high on Sammy Chellingat and believe that, yeah, we might see a Kenyan on the podium at OCC.
Yeah, I mean, last year being Patrick Kipnieno's kind of like breakout year, a lot of people doubted that he could run well on technical courses. They were like, obviously he's fast, but like he's not going to do well at like Japan. And he crushed everyone on that course, and it was very technical. So you can't ever count like the fasties out just because they're fast. It doesn't mean they're bad at technical too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what people were saying about Americans too, as we started going
Yes.
over
Yeah,
to Europe, is that we could
exactly.
only do runnable California carpet, but we also can hold our own. And I just found this on IAAF, but Sammy is also Samuel Chilangat, and you could see it by his photos on IAAF. But his PR in the half marathon is 1 hour and 37 minutes, and his marathon PR is 2:08:50. So
Whew.
man's got just a little bit of lake speed to help him on these trails.
Yeah,
You
and
said
that marathon's
208, 208
two,
marathon.
Yeah,
208 in
yeah.
2023, so like not that long ago.
Wow, yeah. I mean, that's some serious speed coming over to the trails. So
Yeah.
We love that.
yeah,
Um,
so watch out for Sammy, everyone. I think he can have a great day at OCC, and it'll be exciting to see like what his strategy is too going into the race, and with
Yeah.
it being like I guess maybe the longest distance he's ever done, especially well at least the well no he did the 50K actually, so yeah he has experience at the 50K distance, so yeah he might have got some good confidence from that, and maybe he'll go out hot, maybe he'll I don't know we'll just see what happens.
Maybe he'll sit and kick. We love a sit and kick race.
Sit kick, yeah.
So the next up we have Ben Robil, French runner, won the long trail last year at Worlds in Innsbruck and was second at European Champs this year in the trail short, which was still like what it was like
60
60K
something.
or
Yeah,
something.
not too short.
He's DNF'd the last 2 years that he's run at UTMB week, whether it was CCC or TDS. But I think it'll be exciting for him to drop down because maybe he's just a 50 to 60K kind of guy. I mean, because the trail long was 80K, which is
Yeah.
still obviously significantly less than CCC and TDS. So will be exciting to see how he matches up against kind of these more sub ultra athletes.
Yeah, and he has DNF 2 out of the last 3 years. So he
Oh, sorry, two
DNF
out of the last three.
TDS. He finished CCC 2 years ago, but he DNF'd CCC 3 years ago. But yeah, I wanted to highlight him because obviously he knows how to show up at big championship races, which is this. Maybe he's just had some bad luck at UTMB week. As we all know, people are very susceptible to getting sick. And so maybe he's just had that bad luck there. So yeah, really excited to see him.
He was actually at that Trail Alsace race as well, the 50K
Oh,
that Sammy won. He had a really rough day there, it looked like. So I'm not because I was looking down the list and he was pretty far down. I'm not sure like where he's at this year. I know he did finish second at European Champs, the 50K. Uh, but yeah, he's just been kind of off and on. Like he'll have a really good race and then a really bad race, and maybe that's just because he's really young. He's trying to learn his nutrition or something. I don't know what the case is, but yeah, like when he does show up, he's really, really good. And so we'll just see what Benjamin Rubial we get at OCC.
yeah, exactly. Next up we have Martin and Thamatin. He is one of my Terex teammates. He is a Swiss Alps guide in the Eiger Matterhorn area. So he's very, very technically savvy, has been on multiple sky running podiums. Usually the more technical the race, the higher he finishes up. He was 12th place here last year, started out very conservative and then just worked his way up as the race went on. He also was third at the X Alpine at Trail Verbier this year, which was, yeah, that's a very technical race, 61K with 4,100 meters of climbing, which is really
Yeah.
insane. So he's someone I would note more in the later halves of the race. He is, I want to say he's like 41 or 42. So he's coming in with a lot of race wisdom and experience.
Nice. The Ludovic Pomeray of the short distance.
Exactly, exactly.
Experience pays off so
Yeah.
much in these style of races. So that'll be interesting to see what Martin can do.
Yeah, never count him out. All right, Hayden, you want to take the next one?
Yeah, next up we got Christian Allen. So I know Christian really well. He's another Utah boy. He's just coming off of graduating from BYU University. Was a really good cross country track and field runner at the university level. Multiple time All-American. I think one year he finished top 10 at NCAA Division One cross country championships. So like he's got the pedigree. I mean, he is extremely fast. He works really, really hard. If you follow Christian on Strava, you'll be like, holy smokes, like how does this guy run so fast on some of these climbs? Like he just crushes all of the big climbs in Utah. But yeah, he's no stranger to the mountains. He lives up in the like Provo area, so he's running up and down the Wasatch Mountains all the time. Really good technically. He has had a good year. I actually watched him win the U.S. mountain running champs in July before I headed out here to Europe. Completely dominated that race, mostly on the climb. He did almost get caught on the downhill. So I think like Christian's strength is the climbing. But like something like OCC can definitely be a good race for him because there's almost 12,000 feet of climbing. And a lot of those climbs are very runnable where Christian should be able to use some of that big engine that he has and that climbing ability. The only thing I would say about Christian, I mean, he did actually just finished, was it 13th or something at Sierra Zanel? Um, Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was in the top 15. But he did really well at Sierra Zanel. But the only thing I'd say about Christian is he does race a lot. He has been racing a ton this year. So yeah, like we'll see if that comes back to bite him or if that is actually good prep for something like OCC. You never know. I guess everybody knows themselves and what they're capable of, and Christian is definitely not afraid of anything. And he will put himself in the mix, and I guarantee you he will be up near the front, pushing it with all the top guys from the start.
Yeah, and Christian has also run 2:15 in the marathon, so someone else who's got the leg speed for sure. And none of the descents at OCC are so technical that I think that takes him out of the race. Does he train with Ed Eyestone's group?
He does, yeah. So he trains with Connor Mance and Clayton Young and all those Olympic marathoners. He does a little bit of his own, of course, on the trails,
Yeah.
but like he does do a lot of speed work, a lot of road and track work still with some of the BYU boys, and specifically Connor and those guys. And so yeah, he's a competitor, man. Like Christian is all in, and he's actually out here training right now. I know him and his family are staying in the Saint Gervais area, and he's been getting out on the trails, preparing himself. I actually helped him with some of the logistics about it, bringing his family out. And yeah, just really excited to see what Christian can do, and would love to see a Utah boy on the podium. Would be pretty awesome.
That would be cool.
Yeah, and he was 14th at Sierra Zanal this year, and he ran 2:37. And in most years, that actually would have gotten him a top 10. This year's men's race was just, they obliterated what we thought was possible in Sierra Zanal for top 10 men. So still an incredible race for Christian, even if it's, not the top 5 or podium spot that we're used to seeing him in. Nice.
Yeah. Next up we have Nick Handel. He was 11th at this race last year, second at 2023 Speed Goat, third at Broken Arrow 46K. I think he also won the Big Alta earlier this year, the shorter
No.
race. He
Oh,
didn't?
I think he
Yeah,
was second. Oh,
I don't know. I think he won the shorter race. I could be wrong though. But Nick Handel, if he's on, very, very good athlete. And this would be, I believe, his third time running OCC. I do know that he's been struggling with some iron levels lately. I believe I saw him talking about on Instagram. So I don't know if that's something that he has figured out yet, or if he's still kind of in an up and down phase. Obviously, having low iron levels at this race, not really what you want to have. But if he's gotten that figured out, like Nick Handel's definitely somebody to watch out for. 11th at OCC last year, knows the course well, is like a full-time athlete at this point. So if he is training, he's definitely training hard.
yeah, he was first. Sorry. You got that right.
Was it at the 28K?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
okay.
thought Eli had beaten him, but that was someone else. And yeah, last thing for Nick Handel, homie, you still got time down that iron. You
Yeah.
got 2 weeks. You could still get it up. I believe in you. Having personally just been there recently. 100 grams? No, don't listen to me. I'm not a doctor.
This was like 3 weeks ago, so I'm hoping that like he's figured it out in the last 3-4 weeks at least.
Yeah.
And that might be a good thing because Nick does like to race quite a bit. I know last year he did like 7 or 8 50Ks, if I
Yeah.
remember right. So maybe like not being able to race as much because of his low iron levels could actually help him because he'll go into the race a bit more fresh and hungry and just excited to really put himself out there. Would love to see Nick on in the top 10, and I definitely think he's capable of that.
Wisdom from Hayden Hawks. You can't. That's priceless. Thank you. Next up we have Tao Lu. He's also one of my Terex teammates. He was 9th last year at OCC, first at the Amazon Jungle, Thailand. Basically a lot of first place in some Chinese trail races, which from my limited knowledge, most of the time they're very technical, wet, lots of stairs, very steep, very technical descending. He did take the race out with a fellow countryman last year, which was pretty cool, like watching the athletes respond to that move. Eventually faded a little bit back, but still found himself in the top 10. So will be interesting to see if he adopts that strategy again this year, or if he ends up playing it a little bit conservative, considering you have some other very aggressive runners as well this year in the race.
And the race will be longer this year than it was last year.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember watching the live stream last year of the OCC and watching him and the other Chinese guy just hammering the downhills. Like I
Yeah.
think the downhill into Triant, I was like, holy smokes, I didn't know you could run that fast down that downhill. And like Yeah, maybe like that came back to bite him at the end, pushing the downhills a little too hard. So maybe if he just holds it back just a little bit, like that could help him towards the end and he could finish up a little higher. But yeah, like I think the Chinese athletes are definitely taking the world by storm, just like the Kenyan athletes are. And we're definitely seeing a lot of Chinese contingent in a lot of these races. And it'll be really exciting to see what he can do on race day.
Yeah. Do you want to take your Hoka teammate next?
Yeah. So Sylvain Kachar. He's one of the Hoka athletes. I was actually just at camp with him a couple weeks ago, here in Argentière. Sylvain just recently took seventh at Sierra Zanel, ran 2:32, which is a 2-minute PR for him. And he set the French record. Actually, I saw on his Instagram that he posted that he set the French record. I didn't know that was a thing, but that's awesome. That's really cool. Congrats, Sylvain. This dude is hungry. I mean, he is so hungry. He's so excited. Like he's just one of those guys that's just like you want to be around because he's so happy all the time. And he's so like just motivated and excited to like go out and just run and train hard. I remember at camp, like he was training so hard. Like he was doing days where he was doing like 4 days of like efforts every day. Like I told him, I say, hey Sylvan, do you want to do like an easy day with me on one of the days? Oh, sorry, man, I have a workout tomorrow. And I'm like, I thought you had a workout yesterday. Oh, I did. Oh, I have another one tomorrow. And I was like, what the heck? But like he is like really trains really hard. Does a lot of really fast speed work. I'm not sure, but this might be is this his first 50K? Oh no, I guess he would have had to qualify.
I think he ran OCC
St.
last year, if
Jacques.
I remember correctly, but I'll look while you guys are
Did he?
chatting.
Oh,
I
okay, so he
I
did the
don't
Trail du
think.
Saint Jacques, I
Oh,
think.
Yeah,
okay.
this is his debut, so I think this is going to be his longest race.
Okay, so
Okay.
yeah, this is his longest race. That's the only thing, but like he has dominated a lot of the short distance French scene in trail running. Yeah, extremely fast, extremely excited for him. He's young, he's hungry, and I think he could have a really good day out there, especially if he can be on top of his fueling and be maybe a little bit smarter at the beginning so he can use some of that speed towards the end.
Yeah, it looks like he
Yeah.
ran ATC last year and he
Yep.
got
That's what I
ninth.
was gonna say.
I would say
Oh,
the
you're on
same too.
UTC.
Just having
Okay.
seen him on the Golden Trail World Series, the dude is freaking fast. I wouldn't count him out. It's just that second half of, having your debut here for longest race, not so much like debut at OCC. So I'm very excited
Yeah.
about Sylvan.
I mean,
I
he is
mean,
coming off a stress fracture. I know he got hurt in April. I think he had a stress fracture. But again, that might not be a bad thing. Like I know firsthand how it is to come off of a big injury and it makes you extremely like hungry and excited. And I feel like the body sometimes needs that to like replenish itself and it comes back stronger a lot of the time. And I think like with his 2-minute PR at Sierra Zanel, we're seeing that. And so like I do know he hasn't been able to race as much this year with that stress fracture, but maybe that's, saved a bunch of energy for him to be able to go out and crush something like OCC.
yeah. And
Yeah.
a lot of times MK and I equate a PR at Sears now to a marathon PR when you're kind of chipping away. And so a 2-minute PR is a huge deal, especially on that course and the heat this year. Yeah. So next up, do you want to take this one, MK? Or I got it.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can do that. I was gonna say kind of same thing with this guy, Anthony Felber, like because Danny and I talked about in our Sears and All preview, it'll be really interesting to see how people come back from Sears and All now because it used to be like a really good tune-up, but I think the more competitive it gets, like the more of a risk it can be for people to do Sears and All and OCC as a back-to-back because it's just all out. But Anthony actually had to opt out of Sears and All this year because he dropped out of Mont Blanc Marathon back in June due to a bone edema in his tibia. And so I'm wondering again, like, because Anthony has raced a lot in the past because he's been a Golden Trail guy. If the break of not being able to run Mont Blanc Marathon, opting out of Sierras and all, like kind of biking a little bit more. He lives in the area, so he knows the course really well. He was seventh here last year. So maybe with a little bit of rest, we see Anthony kind of moving up on this podium because he's also very young, somebody who It has always kind of been breaking into that top 10, but hasn't quite had the big day yet. And so who knows? Maybe Anthony Felber rested is the Anthony Felber that we need.
Definitely. And he's also a sweetheart, hard
Yeah.
worker. So I'd love to see that too. All right, let's move into a couple of Americans before we move into these last couple of guys. Uh, Kind of like the European powerhouses that our Americans will be, taking their gloves up to in this boxing match. Um, let's go to Jesherin Small. So he got fifth last year at this race, which I think was a huge breakout race for him. He had already done really well in some American races. But what I really appreciate about Jesherin is he's very calculated throughout his year. He is a very relaxed dude, but he picks races that truly are always gearing towards OCC, and he always has his A races as his A races, and everything else is part of the plan. Like he doesn't really get phased much if a result isn't exactly what he wants. He's focused on that A race. And so again, this year, OCC and then Transvolcania each year were kind of like two of his big goals. And this year we saw him bump up and he got fourth at Transvolcania against an incredible field. I mean, we had our two Terex teammates who went 1-2. And then John Albin was first. Then it was Terex 2-3-4. But our Terex teammates who were ahead of him are 100K tried and true. One of them, Tom Evans, previous Western States champion. Jesherin is showing that he has the strength. And then he recently won Eiger 51K, which is a very fast 50K mid-July, showing that he also still has that speed. Jesherin, similar to Hayden actually, and a lot of athletes or a handful of athletes still works on his speed quite a bit. So you see him doing road tempos and very short intervals. So he knows what this race requires as far as to be successful. And I think Jesherin is a very strong contender for the podium this year.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So I ran with Jesherin actually, what was it, week or two ago? Me, him, and Dan Jones went out and we ran the Bovine climb.
Oh yeah.
And Jesh, he's fit. Like me and Dan were struggling actually on the climbs. Jesh was running the entire climb. Dan busted out his poles. I was like power hiking. We're like, Jesh, hey, slow down, buddy. Like, we're just coming off of Western States, you know. No, but he's just like really excited guy. Really just pumped. Super focused, dialed in on OCC. He definitely wants to improve upon his fifth place finish last year. I've raced against Jesh in the past. I ran against him at Canyons 50K last year. The dude is really fast on the downhills, especially the runnable downhills. Like he just goes. Like it was funny because like he kind of gave me like a hard time because he said I sat and kicked on him at Canyons 50K. But I was like talking to him about it a couple weeks ago and I was like, yo, Jesh, like I was just holding on, bro. Like you were going fast enough. I didn't need to go any faster. And I don't think I could have went any faster, especially on the downhills. And so I was just trying to hold on till the last climb and hope that I could beat you. But yeah, anyways, he's a young guy. He's super just hungry, I would say, and just really wants to be great. And I think he's definitely on his way to be great. And would love to see him on the podium at OCC and definitely think he's capable of that.
Yeah. And I was gonna say something. Oh God, I just lost my train of thought. Forget it. Jesherin Small, super stoked to see how you do. This next one, we're like pretty much positive is not racing, but we are so bummed, so I'm going to talk about it anyways. But Chad Hall was supposed to run OCC. He hasn't posted anything on Strava for 3 weeks, which doesn't always mean that you're not training, but it's likely because Chad has never been one to hide his training before. Um, so kind of bummer, but I don't think that Chad's going to be there. If Chad was here, definite, somebody that you're looking for a top 5. So I'll skip to Eli Hemming, our final American on this list, one of Danny's Terex teammates. If you don't know who Eli Hemming is at this point, don't worry, go listen to like half the podcast that we've done. He's won most of the races. Recently, he's been first at Canyons 50K and 325, first at Black Canyon 60K and 4006, first at Big Alta 50K. He was recently second at the Broken Arrow 23K behind Patrick Kipnieno, so he's still got the speed at the shorter distances as well. Last year he was third at Pikes Peak behind Remy and Patrick, as well as second to Remy at Mont Blanc Marathon. This is Eli's first time running OCC, but I could see him winning this race first go. So, like, I'm pretty excited to see how Eli stacks up against the rest of these men who have run this race before.
Yeah, 100%. I can definitely see Eli winning this race. Eli is another one of those guys who's super dialed. If you listen to some of the podcasts about like his winter training, what him and Tabor have, like their little treadmill setup they have in their house, like it is so dialed. They're like lactate testing on the treadmill, doing all
Yeah.
these workouts and different things. And like Eli comes from the triathlon background. He knows how to prepare for races. He knows how to make sure he's prepared for whatever he's lining up at, and you can definitely see that like his preparation is top notch. And I think like with Eli, like going back on that Broken Arrow 23K, he was only 90 seconds behind Patrick Kimigano, and like Patrick has been dominant in short distance trail running like the last 2 years. I mean, he has been the best. Like
Yeah.
him and Killian have been the best, and so to only be like 90 seconds off of Patrick, that's an incredible time. I think he was like 3 minutes behind or 3 minutes ahead of third place, which was the other Kenyan guy who's been completely dominant as well. I forgot his name.
Philemon.
But
Philemon. Yeah.
yeah, Philemon. Yeah, yeah. So Eli is like he's there. I mean, he is one of the best in the world. Rumor is that Eli's thinking about moving up in distance in the near future. You don't need to
Yeah.
do that yet, Eli. Like, stay down, buddy. Like, we don't want to have to race you yet because you are just too good, man. But anyways, yeah, I'm a big Eli fan, and I'm sure we'll get to it, but Eli is probably my pick for the win. So
Yeah. Another thing about Eli, because we are a big Eli Hemming fan club over here, is the dude is competitive. Like he is a damn sweetheart. He is such a great person. But I do know from Broken Arrow VK, he was really upset. You could just tell from the VK. And he turned it around next day, showed up second place right behind Patrick. And I know he was chomping at the bit not being at Mont Blanc Marathon during Western States weekend too, which a lot of sub ultra runners do. It's you have to make a choice. Like, are you supporting your team at Western or are you at Mont Blanc Marathon? And he was happy to do it, but he wants to be in the action. And so this race has all the players he wants to race. And another fun fact is he does coach himself, kind of like Hayden touched upon. So yeah, Eli Hemming. Let's go, America. Eli Hemming, Joshua Small, and everyone else that we've listed so far.
one more thing on Eli and on all these guys that I've seen is a lot of them have ran like 50Ks early on in the year. So Eli
Yeah.
ran the Black Canyon 60K, the Canyons 50K. And then as they've gotten closer to the race, they've actually started doing shorter distance stuff, which I think's a good thing to note because like they gained all that base and that strength. And they got that 50K experience. We're able to dial in nutrition and different things at the 50K distance, which is going to help them for a race like OCC. But now they're really sharpening up their engines. They're getting really fast at climbing, really fast at descending with some of these shorter distance races. They're sharpening up at the right time. So it's like a really thought out schedule. And I think this is something we're seeing in the sport. Our people are really dialed on how they're setting out their schedules to make sure that they are properly prepared at the right time of year. And I think like that is the way that I would do it as well. And I think it's really smart if you want to be peaked and ready to like have your best performance at OCC. It's exactly how I would set up my race schedule as well and my training schedule. And so I'm really excited to see like Eli doing that and all these other guys and see how that plays out.
No, 100%. Um, all right. So these last four gentlemen, again, before we get into kind of our picks for these fun different categories, so three of the four have been on the podium, not once, maybe twice for actually a couple of these guys. So these guys are tried and true. First one up, my teammate, Robbie Simpson, Mr. Consistent himself. The dude has run nearly the same exact time at Sears now for almost a decade now. And whenever he shows up at OCC, except for last year, and last year he did have some fueling stuff. He was taking less than he realized due to a recent fueling thing that came out in the sport. He's been on the podium at OCC. He ran Chianti Trail earlier this spring, a 46K and 250 on the trails. That's stupid. He recently ran Eiger 35K. He ran it in 3:15, which was nearly a 5-minute PR from last year. So the dude is fit, and having run that course last year, I think it's the perfect OCC tune-up. Super steep, just enough technical, some runnable. You get kind of all those same markers as OCC. He did have a rough time at Sagama earlier this year because he actually had Lyme's disease for a little bit, and he got that taken care of. But yeah, 2 podiums at OCC, second in 2021, third in 2022. And again, ran Sierra Zanal this year and was knocking on that door out of top 10, ran a time that would normally be in the top 10. What do you guys think of Robbie Simpson? Oh, you're muted.
Tommy and I were talking about like just this podium earlier this week, and he was like, dude, Robbie Simpson's gonna win it. And I was like, okay, all right. I mean, it's not a bad pick.
He was just top 10 at Sierra Zanal last weekend as well. I'm pretty sure. Wasn't he 10th? I'm pretty sure.
I need to double check. I thought he was right outside of it, but I wouldn't be
Okay.
surprised if he was right in it again.
Yeah,
Anyways,
he's always right there.
yeah, he's always right there. I raced
13th.
Robbie. Oh, was he 13th? Okay, so he was right there. Yeah, I raced Robbie actually in 2021 when he finished second.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
extremely good on the climbs. Like I'm kind of known for my climbing ability. Like that's kind of my strength. I'm not as good on the downhill, definitely better on the uphill. And I remember like me, him, and Remy were actually like all climbing together. I was a bit surprised because I thought, Robbie's a bigger guy. I thought he might not be quite as good on the climbing as like someone like me and Remy. Remy's like one of the best climbers, if not the best climber in the world. And me and Remy were kind of pushing, on the climbs, especially going up to the Bovine climb. And Robbie was right on our tail. I mean, he is so strong on the climbs. Got a massive engine. He's won a lot of races he's won pretty much every big marathon 50K in Europe, it seems like. I would say the only thing with Robbie is his downhill ability is maybe not quite as good as some of these other guys it could be. And so that's what I would say the only thing with Robbie, but that's not really like saying much because it's still really good. It's just like I think that's the only place where Robbie could be beat, is on the downhill. But that being said, I do think like overall he's just such a solid runner. He knows how to podium, and yeah, I think Robbie Simpson has a really good shot of being on the podium once again.
You want to take this next one, Hayden?
Yeah, so we have next is Francesco Pupi. Francesco finished second at OCC last year, in an incredibly fast time. I think we talked about earlier, was it like 4:44?
Yeah.
And so yeah, he's ran extremely fast on this course. I actually had the opportunity to train a bit with Francesco early on in the spring. He was really fit early on this year. He won Chucking 50K, and he also ran the Lake Sonoma, the 50 miler actually at Lake Sonoma, and set the course record there. And I know since then he's kind of been suffering a little bit with some fatigue. I know that 50 miler, I mean, he did run La Templier last year and finished second to John Albin at La Templier. But like he's not as familiar with running those longer distances. So maybe doing Chuckanut and Lake Sonoma so close together, and then the trip at, being at altitude for so long in the States cause a little bit of fatigue. But I do think has since maybe bounced back because he did finish 15th at Sierra Zanal last weekend. So maybe he's coming around just at the right time. I'm a huge fan of Francesco. super positive. Again, a guy that really focuses on his speed. He definitely doesn't lack in the leg speed department. And so I definitely think with that experience that he has on this course from last year, mixed with hopefully some of the strength that he built earlier this year, he can go out there and improve upon his second place performance at OCC.
Yeah. And Francesco's somebody who talks about the fact that he races too much a lot. And so, we talk about the beginning of his year, chucking out 50K, Lake Sonoma, the week after Lake Sonoma, qualifying for the Italian team for uphill European Championships, Mont Blanc Marathon. So, like, he talks about it, but every year he still does it. So, yeah, you're probably right. He's probably coming around now, like, hopefully took a little bit of time off after Mont Blanc Marathon, performed way better at Sears and all this year than he did last year. So that's a good sign.
Yeah. Francesco also just has a lot of fight and spirit in him. That's how I kind of personify him as an athlete. And so he does really show up to these big races. We've seen it at World Championship races like OCC as well. So I'm very excited to see him race. All right, folks. Last two dudes before we get into these categories. Thank you so much for tuning into this. I hope this is helping your Freetrail Fantasy, having all this beta. Uh, Next up is Antonio Martinez Perez. He is an ASICS runner. He has podiumed the last 2 years. He was second in 2022, third in 2023. Both times, this dude on that last downhill from Le Flagere just somehow catches people. Like, this is a very hard downhill to catch people because everyone is screaming in. They can smell the finish line. If you've got like 2 minutes on someone that is way too close for comfort, this dude in 2022 was closing like a 5 minute gap on the podium. Absurd. He is a skyrunning world champion from 2 years ago. He is he is in the Manuel Maria's camp of people that can actually reel people in on that downhill. And last year, same story. Francesco was beating him at the climb, and Antonio was chomping at the bit to get Poopy before the finish line.
And he almost did.
And he almost did. So if this dude is in the conversation going up Le Flagere, do not count him out. Like, his downhill skills are absurd. And I've heard that from many gentlemen on the Golden Trail World Series. This is the last guy you want behind you with like 30 seconds to go. He recently ran Gear de Mont, which is a WMRA race. Kind of a sleeper, super competitive race this year. Our very own Jack Kunzel, FKT extraordinaire, also showed up to this race. He was third, but all the top three were within seconds of each other. Having run that course, it is extremely technical. It is a very difficult course. So for all of them to be that close, what a matchup. He also ran Lavaredo 50K in June. He won in 4:15. For comparison, Poopy ran 4:02 in 2023. Then again, when you're leading a race and, you're not sure if you're going to get the course record, you might just, take that time that you're going to get on the day. And yeah, he had 2 podiums in the last 2 years. So like Robbie Simpson, like a very confident bet on the podium. Clearly he knows how to run this course, and he's run this version of the course and got second.
Yeah. And Antonio is somebody that earlier this year I would not have put in my podium, but it seems like he's coming around like right at the right time. Because last year I felt like he was really consistent the whole year, but we saw early on in some sky running races, and it may not even be that he wasn't ready. It may just be that Roberto De Lorenzi was like smashing everybody and it made it look like Antonio wasn't ready. But that his race at Gear de Mont, like that was the first race that I've seen him do this year that I was like, okay, it's Antonio's still Antonio.
Yeah, Antonio comes from an orienteering background, actually. I actually raced Antonio, I think in one of his first trail races back in like 2019. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. He might be the best downhill runner in the world, like on technical terrain. The race we did was on like La Palma on the Canary Islands, and it was like a super technical downhill. And then you kind of came around. It was a 30K. And then you climbed back up to where we started. And the only reason I was able to beat him was because it was such a long climb, because he literally got like, I swear, like 10 minutes on me on the first technical descent. Like it was so impressive to watch him just fly and go away. And I was like, holy smokes, this kid's got a future. And yeah, he has like he's finished so well at OCC and a lot of races around the world. He's, like you said, one of the best sky runners in the world. So I think like he might be the best technical downhill runner in the race for the OCC this year. And one thing I would note too is like he finished second in 2022, and that is when they had that technical balcony section, right? In 2023, he finished third. They didn't have that technical balcony section. So bringing that technical balcony section back in is actually going to play to Antonio's strengths, and he should be able to hopefully make up some time or gain time through that technical balcony section and also on that technical last descent. And yeah, I could see Antonio definitely being back up there in that first, second position just because of his technical downhill ability, especially at strategic points in the OCC race.
We did a podcast with Antonio last year before the Skyrunner final, and we learned that he also used to do parkour. So we've decided that that's why he's such a crazy downhiller.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just has no fear.
Yeah. Take it.
And
Oh,
yeah,
you want to take this last one?
sure. It's we got
Last but not least.
last but not least, our top ranked runner, Remy Bonnet, a Solomon runner, Swiss guy. You may have heard of him. He's pretty decent. He ran this race in 2021, but did drop out. As Hayden was saying, he was, hammering the climbs with him. But Remy Bonnet is one of the best climbers in the world, if not the best climber in the world. Last year in 2023, he finally, after like 25 years, broke the Pikes Peak ascent course record, which was held by Matt Carpenter. He ran 2 hours flat 20, which is insane. He qualified for OCC with the Restonica Trail just 1 week after barely finishing second to El Huzin at Mont Blanc Marathon with a PR in the race. He ran 3:30 there as opposed to 3:35 the year before when he won it. Um, I I go back and forth between whether I think Remy's gonna like knock this out of the park or if it's just gonna be like a top 5 day, which for him is not knocking it out of the park. But he actually had a much better performance at Sears and all than I would have expected from him because he's had a rough time there the last couple years. Did he finish
Ninth.
eighth? Ninth.
Yep.
Yeah, last year or 2 years ago he dropped out. I can't remember if he finished last year. But yeah, Remy Bonnet is running OCC again.
Yeah, and of note, so I was there actually when Remy made the decision to drop out. I actually passed
Oh.
him. He'd fallen on the course on one of the downhills and messed his knee up really bad or something. And I passed him and I was like, "Hey Remy, you okay? Like what's going on?" He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna drop. Like I hurt my knee or something like this." And so yeah, like he did drop out because of a fall. But dropping down. This is when the course used to go up and over Triant and then down into Valenciennes. That's where he fell, and he was in, I think, third or fourth place at that time. So like, there's no doubt in my mind that Remy probably would have finished on the podium that year if not for the fall. Remy definitely is a better climber than a descender, I would say, but he's still really strong on the descending, and I know he's really worked on that over the last couple of years. And since 2021, when he dropped out of OCC, Remy has become a completely new athlete. Like he went from being really good to being completely dominant, I would say, in the last 2 to 3 years. And so, yeah, like I think Remy wants redemption on this course. He definitely wants to make up for that day. And I do think like with his strength on the flat, on the up, I do think this course suits him really well. And especially now with that more runnable downhill off of Col de Balme, like Remy could really take advantage of that section as well. And I do think he is definitely a big player for the win this year.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. It definitely says a lot when you are constantly the one to beat. It means that you are dominant and that people see you. threat is a negative connotation, but just as a very strong competitor. And when he has his eyes set on a big goal, which this seems to be a big goal, i.e. something like the Pikes Peak Ascent record, winning Golden Trail overall. I mean, the dude is a world champion in the schema uphill. He knows how to put himself into position to win. So, yeah.
Plus, I do think this race means something to him because it starts in Switzerland, right? Remy's
Yeah.
Swiss.
Yeah.
I know like in 2021, he was hyped up a lot, for being Swiss and the race starting in Switzerland. And so I do think like he's got that home field advantage, with the race being a lot of it being run in Switzerland. And I know he's really excited to, yeah, represent his country and hopefully come away with a victory at this, Swiss race. So.
Yeah. 100%. So those are the top guys that we've highlighted. You can go and check out the list yourself. It's on the UTMB top runners ranked, I think, website. We'll link that in the show notes. So you could dive through any other individuals that you think could be in contention for the top 10, top 5 podium, even potentially the win that we didn't highlight. So we are going to finish this podcast off with some fun kind of category questions. Again, thanks so much, Hayden, for joining us. Your colorful insight is a huge add to this episode. But before we dive into that, here is another message from one of our partners. Hey fam, Danny here. Just a reminder that this episode is brought to you by our friends over at Never Second. Never Second is an easy to understand modular system that allows you to create the exact amount of carbs that you want for your activity. Their products are meant to mix and match, which personally I love taking advantage of. So you can ensure that you're getting 30, 60, 90, or even 120 grams of carbs per hour. I have been using Never Second during my buildup for OCC, and it is all I will be using on race day. Like I mentioned, it's meant to be mixed and matched, and I've been taking full advantage of that. I love the C30 fruit punch gel along with the berry plus, so that means it has caffeine. I also alternate this with a mix of 3 scoops of the C30 citrus, which is their powder, or the C90 orange. So as you can see, I love mixing all of the flavors. I love that the sodium is very easy to understand. For the C30, 1 scoop, it's 200 milligrams of sodium. The C90, it's also 200 milligrams of sodium. So if you're interested in trying Never Second, I'm a huge fan. Like I said, it's all I will be using for OCC. Be sure to use SubHub25 for 25% off of all of your orders. Again, that's SubHub25 for 25% discount off all your orders at neversecond.com. That's NEVER2.com. Now back to the episode. All right, folks. We are here. The very end of this episode. I think the most fun part of these previews, getting into these fun category questions to get you hyped for the huge race that is OCC that happens just 2 weeks from now. And so the first question we're going to start with is, who is going to be our star debutante? This one is really tough considering I think like half of these folks are debuting at OCC this year. But MK, let's kick it off with you.
This one is easy for me. I'm gonna have to go Eli Hemming.
It's not as hard as I thought it was.
I know. At first I was like, oh, this is gonna be hard. And then I like scrolled up and I was like, never mind.
Nice pick. Hayden.
I'm gonna go with Sammy Chelangat.
Okay. Nice. I mean, a debutante pick almost is solidified that you think they're going to be on the podium too.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm also going to go with Eli Hemming. I just really like his schedule coming into this year. I just think he has that perfect balance. I think Sammy will be knocking on the door. I'm just curious how he's going to do in the later half of the race once we get up and over Col de Bomb. All right, next question. Dark horse performance. So this doesn't necessarily need to be a debutante, but someone that maybe people aren't considering to be on the podium. Hayden, go ahead, kick us off.
I don't know if he's necessarily a dark horse, but maybe a lot of the Europeans, especially, don't know him as well. I'm gonna go with my boy Christian Allen, from Utah. I think he's got a shot of being on the podium. You know, he's one speed goat, so he's got experience in a mountain 50K. And I know he's really hungry and he's really fit and excited to be here. So I'm gonna go with Christian Allen.
That was gonna be my pick too, but I'll switch it up a little bit, keep it exciting. I'm gonna put Nick Handel in there. I think if Nick Handel's healthy and like ready to go, he's somebody who has run this course enough to maybe be able to squeak into that top five, maybe even the podium.
Nice. I actually have a different one, so this
All
is
right.
good. My person is Sylvain Cochard. I just think he has experience on the Golden Trail World Series. The dude is wicked fast, and just running 2:32 at Sears now, he is fit. Like his climbing and his speed are there. So yeah, I could see him definitely being. I'm not sure if he's going to be on the podium, but I would definitely put him a strong bet for the top five as someone maybe people aren't considering.
He's been training out here too, and that's the thing. He's been doing a lot of training on the course, so I think he'll be ready for that.
Yeah. Next one is going to be most improved or comeback runner from last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whenever.
Go ahead, Hayden.
Oh, comeback runner. What do we how who do we
You can interpret it however you want.
uh I guess I'm gonna pick, I don't know if it's really a comeback though, but maybe from like being off the podium last year to being back on the podium. I'm gonna go with wait, was Robbie on the podium last year?
No,
No.
no.
Oh yeah, so I'm gonna go with Robbie Simpson. Potentially being back on the podium. You can never root against Robbie. Mr. Consistent, and would love to see him back on the podium.
I hope that keeps going. We just call him Mr. Consistent.
You're
He's just
really
the
good. You're
nicest dude
consistent,
either.
but you're also good.
Yeah.
He's the nicest guy in the world too.
Yeah.
Like, how can you not root for Robbie? Like,
Yes.
he's so humble and he's just such a good dude.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm gonna go Jeshurun. That's gonna be my most improved for the year. We're moving from fifth to podium. That's the goal there.
Yeah, I mean, people underestimate how big of a jump that requires a lot of the
Hmm.
time, especially in these races. Fifth to, yeah, getting like second, third, even first. I think that's a great pick. I'm feeling really good about Joshua too. I'm gonna throw Remy Bonnet. I think he's finishing this year.
Yes. Going from
Maybe,
DNF to a finish. That's
yeah,
a big comeback.
that's a big comeback. Maybe even, first place. So that is my most improved. All right. I know you crossed this one out, but I just want to highlight it really quick. Best team performance. I'm
Of course, she
biased.
wants to highlight it.
Well, like how many Adidas athletes are there? There's quite a bit,
Yes.
isn't there?
We got
Shameless.
five on this list.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Robbie, Eli, Jeshrin, Talu, and Martin. Yeah, I think we're rolling deep. Sorry. Okay, that was
We got one Hoka guy. Go Sylvain. Yeah, you're our only
We don't have
Hokie.
any craft athletes in OCC. Once I dropped out, they were or moved up. They were like,
yeah.
okay, nobody else is gonna run that one.
I love it. All right, sorry, that was shameless. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. All right.
Podium.
Yeah, this is
Who,
okay.
who's gonna start the podium picks?
Nose goes. Just kidding. Do you want to go, Hayden? Are you feeling good about this?
I mean, I
Round it
have
out.
my podium. Yeah, are they
Okay.
supposed to be in order, or can I just name three that I think will be on the podium?
Try with an order, but go
Oh,
third
that's
first.
brutal. It's his first time. He doesn't have to do an
Nah,
order.
okay, we'll do it. I'm gonna go Sammy Chellengat in third. Um, I'm gonna go Remy Bonnet in second, and I'm gonna go Eli Hemming in first. I think Eli or Remy have a really good shot of winning this race. Either one, I would be extremely happy if they won. But my American bias and, Eli being a good friend of mine, I'm going to go with Eli. And I do, that being said too, I do think he is capable, more than capable enough of winning this race. And he set up his schedule perfectly to be able to peak at this race. And I think that might be able to nip Remy at the end. But I also can see Sammy being on the podium as well. So I'm going to go, yeah, Sammy, Remy, and Eli.
This is so hard. There are like 8 people that I could put in this top 3, but we're just gonna go for a podium. Okay.
Just go.
So
Send it.
I'm gonna put Robbie in third, Eli in second, and Francesco in first.
Oh, let's go.
Go Poopy.
Poopy gets his win. Poopy gets his
He gets
win.
his redemption day. I'm
All
feeling
right.
it.
No, I think that's a great podium. I was going back and forth with Poopy. I'm also going Robbie third, Mr. Consistent himself. And Remy Bonnet second, and our man Eli Hemming first. Yeah.
All
And
right.
yeah, I really think though, if Antonio is on, I would replace Remy with Antonio. I mean, he's gotten podiums there the last 2 years. He's the only guy that's gotten podiums the last 2 years. So
Yeah.
he on this course as well. And Robbie obviously podium 2 years ago too. So yeah.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
just so hard to pick three because like I would put Antonio, like Antonio could be on the podium, Francesco can be on the podium. Like there's so many guys right in this field. And that's why like I'm so excited to watch this. And luckily I can watch it because it's before my race and I'll be
Mm-hmm.
tuned in all day, like on the edge of my seat. I'm just really excited to
Oh,
see what happens.
Tony and I talked about it in the women's preview, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to watch it. Like, I think I'm just going to have to wait until the results come out because I'm going to get too hype, and I got to not be too hype before CCC.
No, you said you were going to be at the top of Col de Bomb, right?
Oh, did I say that?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, crap.
She's gonna get so hyped and she's gonna like break the Strava record up the first climb of CCC. She's gonna be ahead
Let's
of all the men, and
go.
we're gonna be like, MK, wait for us.
And then you'll
Like, I'm
never
just
see
so
me again
hyped.
because
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
exactly.
gonna break the course record by that much.
Yeah. Hey, I would love to see it. That would be amazing.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love it. Um, well, yeah, this is a huge race to watch. I did actually take the top 10 UTMB indexes, which we all know there's some caveats there with that ranking system. But this is the most competitive as far as top 10 men's race of the week and everyone's UTMB index scores. Especially when you got people like Remy Bonnet who are boosting that. So obviously caveat there as well. But if you want to watch, this will be on the live stream on UTMB. Also, another fun fact, which I myself am proudly chasing, is we have not had an American win OCC. So to have folks like Eli, Jeshrin, Nick Handel, and Christian lining up, maybe this is the year. Maybe on both the men's and women's side, we'll see. But it is the last frontier that an American has not won as far as these UTMB events. So that gets me even more hyped coming off of the
Danny
Olympics.
Marino. We got Danny Marino on the
Let's
women's
go. Let's
side.
go.
Danny.
Well,
um, but yeah, it's going to be an incredible race. Watch. Hayden, thanks so much for joining us. Your insight was invaluable. We can't wait to watch you as well in CCC. We'll be cheering hard. Any final words about OCC or just UTMB week in general?
yeah, just tune in, watch it. It's probably one of the most exciting weekends or weeks of the year. Honestly, I think they're doing a great job, at highlighting the athletes and really making that the forefront. And I hope that it'll continue to get that way. I think the sport is growing. We're seeing a lot of people from all around the world come in, and it's a really exciting time to be a professional ultra runner or to just be an ultra runner in general. It's probably one of the most exciting sports in the world. And I think that's why we're seeing so many brands jump on board and different, things happening in the sport. So yeah, definitely tune in, get hyped for it. And yeah, we really appreciate all of everyone's support and, you know, Thank you for cheering us on. Thank you for helping us out. We couldn't do it without you.
Yes. And this has been the SubHub podcast brought to you by Freetrail. Make sure you guys go follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our newsletters, because I'm sure we'll have some more OCC stuff in the September newsletter, as it'll be after the race. And yeah, thanks for joining.